Hey, Libras, welcome to your Libra horoscope for the week of September 3rd to September 9th, the first week of September. We have Mars in full swing in Libra this week, focused on your support system, those that support you. And Mars is a pretty aggressive energy, actually, for your support system, which is kind of interesting, and yet at the same time, in many ways, sometimes that's what you guys need. Libras are known to be a little bit indecisive. They're known to not want to rock the boat, and that kind of is why they're a little indecisive. And sometimes something pretty major has to happen in order for you to really see your support system for what it is. And especially at the beginning of the week, I think that this has a lot to do with that, as of course Mars starts off the week in opposition with Neptune right on the cusp of the home and those you love. So this is really bringing home who these people are. They're the people that you rely on the most, and in many cases those are the people that you should be relying on, and yet sometimes they're just unreliable for whatever the reason. We have a Mercury retrograde going on too in the middle of this, which adds an interesting layer to the whole thing, because even though it's not in Libra or even close to Neptune, communication is the biggest problem that the world has right now, that is not properly communicating their needs, right? The passive aggressive type of communication, the joking, you're saying what you want to say, but you're joking, so that if somebody says something, you can say, I'm just joking. That's not working either. It's not obviously not getting you what you need, and it's not getting you what you want. So why keep doing that? I feel like a lot of this lesson has to do with that, specifically around patterns with these people that have been happening for a really long time. You can't expect, and it's somebody or the situation or the conversation to change if you're not willing to change the way that you have the conversation. So think about that. The good news is, though, is that Mars is pretty much in a trine with Pluto for most of the week as well. And at the end of the week, in a sextile with Venus, which is now direct and no longer retrograde. Let's talk about the trine with Pluto, because this is actually very interesting. Pluto's focus is right on the mind. It's how you think, it's how the mind works. Now, if your mind is constantly going to the same way of dealing with it, then your communication is also going to go in the direction of the same way that you deal with it as well. And over time, the other person tends to stop listening to the way that you talk. It's a very common pattern within relationships, and marriages, and different things like that. Any kind of relationship that is a very long term, regardless of what the circumstances are, has these patterns in it. And if you want to bust through the pattern, you have to be the one to change the way you approach the problem. Otherwise, there is going to be no change. With Mars in a sextile with Venus, this is also very interesting because Venus is focused on long-term goals. So we have this very aggressive energy going into our support system. And we have this very creative energy going into our long-term goals. And because Venus is your ruling planet and it's direct again, that definitely opens up a lot of creative sort of channels for you guys, which is really good, and a lot of energy to put into that. So bottom line here is, stop getting distracted by the little stuff, okay? Yes, that little stuff has gone on forever and it feels like big stuff. So put an end to it already. Change the conversation so that you can focus your energy on something that is a little bit more productive, if that makes sense, without getting stuck on the fact that people just aren't doing what you want them to do. I know they should fall in line. I get it, but they rarely ever do. And all we wind up doing is making ourselves crazy in the process. And that just wastes a whole lot of time. Why would we want to do that? So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do click the link in the description and send me a copy. I would really appreciate that. If you're listening instead of viewing, that's ko-fi.com/heavy metal psychic. I'm Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic, obviously, in case you didn't catch that before. And I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, bust down those walls and make it a great week, you guys. I'll see you next week.